Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's gear review is about the Benro TMA47AXL aluminum tripod. Now, just to get it out real quick, the AXL is the extra large version of the shorter, normal size, shall we say, tripod. I'll put a link in the description for this tripod and the smaller one if you're interested. One of the great things about this tripod is it's in the $190 to $220 range just for the legs, which might seem a little expensive, but as you've seen in other video reviews of mine, cheaper legs aren't always the best choice for higher-end camera equipment. And plus, this tripod is extremely stable. Like, you can use this for video and photo, is what I've done with my Manfrotto 504X fluid head, and as you can see, no problem whatsoever. It's quite amazing, to be honest, for the price range. It is made out of aluminum and a magnesium mixture. It has the twist locks instead of flip locks. Some people prefer either or, some people are indifferent. Personally, I'm indifferent. They don't really make a big deal to me, and this tripod does come with two center posts. This is the longer center post that's currently in it, right here. And then it does come with a shorter center post that I have my cheapo $20 ball head on. This PerGear TH3 Pro. It's actually 25 bucks. I'll put another link in the description for that. Not really a review for this, but I just want to say this is a great $20 ball head for landscapes and whatnot. It does its job. It's a tool. It's great. But on to the tripod legs here from Benro. Now, with the short column instead of a long column, it weighs about 6.5 pounds, which is pretty heavy for an aluminum tripod, even for the $200 range. But the main reason is this is a very heavy-duty, tall, rugged tripod. This is something that you're going to use for bigger lenses than a 200 or a 70 to 200, maybe a 200 to 500, a 150 to 600. You could easily put a 500 prime, a 600 prime on here, no problem, as long as you have a good, tripod head for it. It supports 44 pounds. I have used it for a hiking stick on occasion, going down steep cliffs in the wintertime. The bottom of the feet have rubber screw-on pads that you can put they're like a half-inch long metal spikes for in the winter, or if you're in icy conditions, rocky terrain, hillsides, that sort of thing. 9 times out of 10, I just leave the rubber pads on. 1, I don't want to accidentally stab myself. 2, I don't want to put any holes in my vehicle, that kind of thing. But they're there if you want to use them, and they do need a specific type of wrench to put them on that comes in the bag with it. 9 times out of 10, I do leave it in my hiking bag, camera bag itself, but I just don't use it. But you can, it's there if you need them. Now, this tripod, not that you can see it, does come with a white bubble level. It is pretty useful, but 9 times out of 10, again, I just use the in-camera horizon level, but it's there if you need it. To exchange the center column, so you just twist this blue collar and then just pull it right off. It is keyed, the center column is keyed, so it only goes in one direction, but it's pretty easy. You can see the key right there. Just slips right down in. Tighten it up. Ready to go. But another cool thing about this is someone like myself that does enjoy macro photography and sometimes some macro video has these little wings that you can pull out on the top of the legs here so that you can get a steeper angle on your tripod legs. Now, I have had this tripod, this leg set, for about 1.5 years, and it is still pretty pretty stiff. It hasn't really worn in, and I've used it all the time. I've probably shot thousands of photos with it, dozens and dozens of hikes, vacations, trips, all kinds of stuff, and it's held up really good. None of the screws have come loose. I haven't had to tighten anything from the factory. So, oh, and one more thing before I forget, it does have an accessory screw hole here, so if you wanted to put a tiny little arm on there from Small Rig or somebody, you could do that for a monitor, an external microphone, that kind of stuff. But back to the macro here. If you retract the legs all the way, you can get about 7.5 inches from the ground if you want to do some good macro work. So it gets real close to the ground, as you can see. It's great for that. And another thing you could do if you really wanted is it has a middle of the road setting for the leg angle. So you don't have to be as close to the ground if you don't want. As you can see, you can get about right there. And if you're feeling adventurous, or if you want a different look for your photos, or get closer to the ground, you can unscrew your center column, and then put it through the bottom, for even better macro work. Of course, that was fighting me. There we go. Just tighten it down, then your camera will hang below the tripod, so you can get even closer if you wish. And then you even have a better center of gravity as well, because everything's getting pulled down at the same time. And this gets plenty tight enough that you could easily use a 100mm macro, 90, whatever you wish. You could probably even hang like a 150 to 600 this way if you really wanted to, but I don't really understand why you want to do that, but it's an option. But now we'll get to the bread and butter of why this tripod legs are so great. Just with one set of legs, it's about chest level. I'm 6 foot tall. And if you're a taller person, like myself, or like 6'5", around there, you can extend the last set of legs then it's about, I believe the user manual said about 70 inches tall with no center post, which is pretty great because you don't have to extend the center post. When you extend the center post is whenever your tripod gets even more unwieldy, it gets wobbly, it doesn't really hold your camera that still. So if you're doing a lot of off the beaten path shooting, video, photo, whatnot, and you're in rocky terrain, uneven terrain, it's great to have legs that are this long. So even if you only have to extend one leg to that length, for example, we'll just collapse these two. Leave that one leg as long as it goes, and we'll put it over the bank here by the creek. So as you can see, with having that one leg fully extended, it's still about chest height on this uneven terrain. It's still very solid. Nothing to worry about with this tripod legs. But if you were feeling adventurous and you are in very, very uneven terrain, you always have the longer center column to move to. And now, even with half of it over the cliffside, it's still about, we'll say 6 feet tall, give or take. It's pretty crazy, very usable. I love this tripod legs for that reason. There was one time I was at a state park, and the prairie grass and the bushes and the brush were about as tall as I am. Couldn't see over it, but there was a whole bunch of migrating songbirds in a brush. And I want to get a shot of it, and I couldn't reach over top. And you don't want to sit there and hold your camera like this and hope you get something, because that's just, you're not going to get anything good, especially if you're using a long telephoto lens. So what I did was I extended all the legs to the maximum length, and I extended the center post, this tall center post, and I stood on top of a seating bench, looked over top of the grass, and the tripod was still an inch or two too tall for me, and I still had to lower down the center column to make it usable for that situation. But if I didn't have the long legs and I didn't have the center post, there's no way I would get these photos of these migrating songbirds. So, it's one thing to keep in mind if you want longer legs. Plus, if you're a taller person, you don't want to be hunched over all day trying to take photos. Plus, you just look funny. Now, I did add my own bit of foam here on the leg, just to make it easier to carry. They do send it with one piece of foam on the one leg, but as you'll see, that's not always the easiest way to carry it. So, for example, if I'm carrying this, there's no way you're going to keep the weight on one set of legs. It's always going to want to roll on you. So I put the other piece of foam there, so I can just carry it comfortably on longer walks through the brush and whatnot. And for the most part, it's pretty stable. You could almost like let go of it. It's not too bad. With the longer post, center post, the tripod is closer to 7 pounds total without a camera or a head on it. But the trade-offs I find for wildlife videography and stuff is extremely worth it. So, just for fun, let's look at the total length, total height of this tripod with everything extended. So this is just with the normal legs extended, not the center post. It's about 70 inches. And if you dared to raise the center post, I think it goes to about 83 inches, which on a normal level area like I'm standing now, this is incredibly not useful, because you got to sit here and reach way up here and try and use your camera, and you can't even see your viewfinder or your screen. But for use case situations of uneven terrain, rocks, valleys, creeks, hillsides, it's the best. I would never go without this tripod. Now, here in a minute, I'm going to talk about the leg sections, because leg sections tend to be what everyone asks in websites Q&A. How thick are the leg sections? How long are the leg sections? That sort of thing. So real quick, we'll just do that. I do have a cheat sheet for this because I wasn't going to remember that. I knew that. So we'll just start at the top. All the center columns, the plate on top, they are roughly 55 millimeters across. Now for the leg sections, if I can read my chicken scratch. The first leg section right here, 36 millimeters thick. It is 570 millimeters long. Second leg section, 32.2 millimeters thick, and it is 582 millimeters long. The very last, bottom segment, is 28.5 millimeters thick and 612 millimeters long. So for the most part, these leg segments are very thick and heavy duty. Nothing to worry about with those. And another thing that I have noticed is if I'm in the creek and stuff, taking photos, landscapes, long time lapses, video even using this tripod, is you know, water will seep into these joints, into these tubes, and you'll sit here thinking, you know, it's all dried off, you're ready to go for the day. And let's see here. You'll be carrying it like this, thinking no big deal, it's dry, but it'll start seeping water back out of the pipes here in the joints or down at the feet, and it'll get your backpack wet, get you wet, that kind of stuff. But there's really not too many tripod legs out there. They're impervious to water, so it's not something you should worry about when you're shopping for legs. It's something to keep into thought whenever you're using a set of legs in around water. One neat thing, which, you know, other tripod legs do this as well, is you can loosen these joints all the way. Just make sure you don't lose your bushings, because these bushings will come off. But when you take it apart like this, you can use a pipe cleaning kit or a gun cleaning kit, and you can swab these out and keep them nice and clean. Then if you put them back together, there is a key inside here that fits up between these bushings, as you can see. So then if you put it back together, you gotta make sure the key goes between the bushings when you go back together. Then you just bring it back up, screw it back into these fine threads, and make sure not to cross thread them. Just do it gently, don't force anything. But you have to make sure you do take care of your equipment, because it is a tool. You should always keep your tools clean. But even with it being about 6 pounds, about 3 kilos, with the short center posting, it's really not as heavy as people make it out to be. So, I mean, 6 pounds isn't the end of the world, especially when you're up to the point where you're using equipment like this. You're going to be toting around bigger lenses, microphones, headphones, multiple smaller landscape lenses, different tripod lens attachments, all kinds of other stuff. So, in the grand scheme, for $200, I don't think you can beat this deal. I would recommend this to everybody, and if you're not a tall person and you're a little gun shy about weight, they do have the slightly shorter version of this, the normal size tripod, the non-AXL. Again, I'll put a link in the description for that. I do enjoy it. I'd recommend to everybody, like I just said a few minutes ago. Not much else to it. Hopefully this review was useful for you, helped you decide on what set of tripod legs you wanted. Even if it's not these, it gave you food for thought of things to think about for other sets of legs. And hopefully I see you around, and good luck shooting.